Hi, let's talk about the FortiGate resource management. Like any other piece of equipment, the FortiGate is going to utilize its memory for various reasons. Could be logging, storing the configuration, keeping track of all the active sessions. But we need to keep in mind that that memory is not infinite, and we need to monitor that, make sure it is within uh, in good health, I should say, because as soon as we hit or we are running out of memory, obviously bad things could happen. We need to understand what's going to, how the firewall is going to operate under those circumstances. With the diagnosed hardware system information memory, we can see how the memory of the whole firewall is doing. But for the most part, the first three items will give us a quick overview. What's the total memory we have, how much we have free, and how much we have available. The memory conserve mode is a way for the firewall to prevent even bad things to happen further. I should say bad things to happen when we are running out of memory, which is going to get triggered when we hit 88% memory utilization or more. And we can know if we are in conserve mode using the diagnose hardware system information conserve command. And also it's going to give us a breakdown of the memory utilization for our system. If we go to the lab computer quickly, I'm just going to show this article that also talks about the conserve mode and what are the default threshold for that. We're just going to review on the next slide, but the green threshold by default is 82. We're going to go to the red threshold at 88, and the default is going to be 95. And if we scroll down a little bit more, this is how it's going to look from the GUI if we are in conserve mode. So it's going to be very obvious that is happening, and we just need to understand the consequences of that. Let's go back to the slides and let's just review this again. Remember, the green or normal operation memory threshold is set to 82. The red, and when we enter conserve mode, is going to be 88. And this extreme is going to be a 95 or more. And these thresholds can be modified, but those are obviously the ones that come out of the box. So when we are in conserve mode, two things on the red. If we are in red, two things will happen. If for all proxy-based inspections, the inspection is just going to be bypassed and the traffic will be allowed, and that's controlled with the set AB fail open command, which is by default is set to pass proxy-based inspection sessions, prioritize access over security. Flow-based inspection, which is the default for all our policies, are going to prioritize security over access, which means during conserve mode, those connections, if they require inspections, but because we are in conserve mode, we don't have resources to do that, then they're going to be discarded. And that is controlled with the IPS, within the IPS global section with the set fail open command. We also can see that we are hitting conserve mode with the logs, and also is going to be added to the crash logs of the firewall. So if we have a system monitoring the logs of our firewall, maybe like a syslog collector or something like that, we can have alerts once we see one of these alerts over there. As we mentioned before, the red threshold when we enter conserve mode is going to be at 88% and is going to go from less aggressive to a very strict behavior once we hit the extreme command, extreme command extreme threshold at 95 utilization, it's just going to start dropping all new sessions while trying to alleviate all the active ones. So that's what it's trying to explain here. At the system level, we're trying to still do something. Once we get at this extreme, the kernel will take over, and then it's going to be a more strict handling of the new sessions. Switching gears just a little bit, there's a shared memory concept within the firewall, and this will allow multiple processes running on the unit to share some amount of data. So instead of allocating a pool for a particular process, this will be bundled and try to share from a same pool of memory. So what can we do if we ever hit conserve mode or try to prevent that? Well, there are a bunch of settings that we could adjust after we understand the traffic of our environment to try to alleviate memory utilization. For example, the TCP half open timer by default is set to 10 seconds, and that's the time any half open TCP session is going to remain on our table, just waiting for the other end to complete that session. Nowadays, just 10 seconds is just too much. If I try to open a website, it's just not even there in 3 seconds. I'm just going to completely drop it. And that potentially is already a TCP complete session. Something else might be happening. But if I'm not even waiting 10 seconds, why should my firewall be waiting on half open sessions for that long? Maybe we could adjust that. Not necessarily go super extreme to 1 second, but maybe to 5 seconds. And obviously, by clearing those sessions, by not having them waiting on our session table for that long, we are obviously freeing up the resources faster. Other things that we could adjust is the maximum file size that we're going to use for inspection. And again, we need to understand our environment before we do something like that. But if we are talking about, I don't know, maybe like phones situation, right, where we have IP phones getting connected, downloading configuration files that are not going to be more than 2 to 3 megs, right? We could adjust that as needed. Versus if we are going to talk about more like medical files, we're downloading a bunch of PDF, then maybe we need to be mindful of that and adjust accordingly to what our network is expecting, right? We still want to inspect and all those files and packages. CPU utilization, we can also track that with the get system performance top command. And here it's more like an overview of what's going on with the CPU. But that command is going to give us a bunch of flags that we just need to know what they mean, right? If you have a time after this lesson, check the supporting article that explains a little bit more each of one of them. Not only the ones that we have displayed on the slide, but it will help us to understand what that command is giving us. The crash logs is also a good place to look for clues of what happened with our memory and the operation of our firewall. In general, we could track events like the conserve mode, but we can also get clues when maybe the IPS engine had a crash, try to understand what triggered that and how we can alleviate that in the future. So for the conclusions, let's remember our firewall won't have infinite amount of memory, and we just need to be monitoring it and understand what's going to happen if we ever run out of memory. What are the conserve mode threshold? 88 for green, 82 for green, 88 for red, and that will trigger conserve mode, and 95 will trigger extreme mode when all new active sessions were going to be completely ignored, and we are going to just try to work on the sessions we already have active. Remember, the firewall handles the concept of shared memory, where it's going to bundle multiple processes and retrieve information from a single pool of memory. And what type of things we can do, what type of timers we can adjust to try to proactively reduce the memory according to our environment and what type of traffic we have, and that we also can see some clues of what's happening in our environment in the crash logs and system logs. Thank you very much.